jump right into it. Curt, would you mind telling me a little bit about your background as an estimator, your career in pre-con?
Sure. Yeah, I've got about 20 years experience in pre-construction and construction. I'm currently the senior estimator at Lifetime. There's Lifetime Architecture, Lifetime Construction serves the needs of Lifetime. And we build, if you're familiar with the Lifetime brand, the clubs, the living, the Lifetime work properties that you see in the nation. So we've got over, oh goodness, probably 160 buildings at this point, facilities throughout the nation. So we develop, design, build, operate, and maintain the properties that we work on within Lifetime.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for that, Curt. So I mean, obviously you've been in the industry for a while, you've got a lot of experience.
Mhm.
What has been some of your biggest challenges, like maybe some of the most common that keep coming up that maybe are kind of, general to the industry that you've really seen?
Well, I guess I don't think of myself as that old or that seasoned, but perhaps I am. I remember, when I started doing takeoff, just as a project manager, assistant project manager, we had 2D paper plans, and you would pull a tape or run a scale or a wheel across the drawings, and that's how you do your takeoff with, you either highlight what you've taken off or you'd color it in. So then we moved on to a digitizer because it was very, time intensive to do takeoff in the old traditional sense, and the digitizer sped it up a little bit, but the digitizer had its shortcomings as well. For about 14 years, using a software program that did takeoff on screen, and that was getting closer to, I think, what everyone in the industry had been championing for a long time, which was something where we can get clear, concise, repeatable results, and have an easy way to view those and manipulate the data. And so moving forward, about 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Lifetime pulled the trigger on a relationship with Beck Tech and started rolling out the DESTINI Estimator program. And Lifetime is in a unique position where, because we design, operate, build, and maintain the projects that we're involved with, and have our own in-house design for the most part, with the exception of some outside specialty, consultants that we procure. We're able to do more in the 3D model than I think some other firms. So we're really in control of our own destinies. Pardon the pun. But we're able to leverage the 3D model, I think, more than some other firms, where instead of going out to an architecture firm and getting the 3D model, having that data pushed through, and sometimes when you push through the data in the 3D model, some of the stuff in the 2D realm doesn't necessarily show up in the 3D realm, so you lose that intent. So when I say that we're in charge of our own, destiny, per se, we're able to kind of tell how things are tagged or labeled within the architecture, design software that our own internal designers use. So with that, I think the reason why you're calling today is you wanted to talk about efficiencies and how we're picking up some efficiencies by using the software now. So here we go. We started using templates more aggressively recently. We've got things dialed in now, I believe, from a database side, and also from the DESTINI Estimator configuration side, where we're able to take templates and really roll them out and use them to full advantage. So we've got, like other large retailers or other large corporations, certain prototypes or certain standards that we roll out for a product, right? So we have different prototypes, whether that's a 1, 2, a 10, a 31, whatever, however you want to label your prototype. So we're able to set that up by our building type that we're rolling out now and really leverage that. In addition to it, there's some steps that are the same in an estimate, no matter what type of building or what type of market segment you're in. You've always got to basically structure your front end costs or your general conditions cost on every estimate. So one of the things that we've done recently with the project tab is, and the dashboard for that matter, is to put some structure there and really outline what we're capturing for general conditions costs. So instead of having a series of spreadsheets scattered throughout SharePoint or some other somewhere else on a server, or someone's local machine for that matter, we're able to capture it within Destiny, version it, and really kind of pull the trigger on that much more quickly. So what I've done is I've set up in the project tab a file with the help of staff from Beck Tech to really structure how we're capturing our general conditions and how we're tracking those costs. And then we're pushing that forward to a dashboard. So there's, an easy review and there's clear, concise, repeatable results on a project. And also it helps with the tracking of historical data and costing in the future as well. You can say, why were we, a little bit more than what we would spend on this one, or a little less than what we would spend on this one compared to another model, and it could be regional differences or something else. We're able to really kind of fine tune that and dig in on a more granular level on where where those costs are landing. So
gotcha. Okay. And how much time would you say this has saved you if you did like a rough estimate?
Well, I think the setup was a little bit more time intensive than just using your spreadsheet, but once we had that done, I would say something that would typically take half a day was cut down into I would say it could be an hour and a half.
Awesome.
So, and the thing that I guess can't be quantified, or I haven't been able to really, quantify yet, is, sending files back and forth and things like that for review. As long as people have access to Destiny, they can go in there and make changes or comments and adjust costs as it goes, up and down the review chain process. So, that's something that's definitely helped us as well. And I think that's helped eliminate confusion in the fact that the files for an estimate are all stored in one place too, is helping us. The backup, if we have quotes from subcontractors or something like that, is still stored externally, but the dollars that we're going in with for specific line item of cost are dialed in. So, and then also with respect to the general conditions cost, because we have line items of cost open up in our database for each one of those general conditions costs that we normally would go in at or go in with, those line items of cost are in the estimate tab. And because I've got it set up in a template now, those line items of those cost codes that we would always code general conditions cost to are carried through from one template to another, or from one template to an estimate. So we've always got that standard, and there isn't the continual data entry on the same line items, or clicking and adding the same line items. They're there already. So
absolutely, that's incredible. That sounds like you've been able to really streamline your process, by using DESTINI Estimator, and you've also been able to save at least a pretty decent amount of time.
Yep.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you envision that Lifetime's pre-con team can do, or maybe is already doing, with that save time?
Oh goodness, I guess it's probably the realization of what we tried to do when we initially adopted or started to implement the software is just less time on task. Everyone is about efficiency and accuracy. There's no reason to spend 10 hours on a task if you can get the same accurate results by only putting in 2 hours of effort. I guess I can't speak to staffing or things like that, but hopefully take some of the burden off folks where, they're not working weekends or late nights. I think that anyone on the pre-con side kind of knows that there's never enough time. And sometimes you're asked to do stuff on the fly or at the 11th hour. And it gives us more flexibility to react to our internal and external clients that we have within the organization if they need changes or need something else done within an estimate. So
Gotcha. Okay, that's amazing. One of the thing I wanted to touch on that you mentioned very briefly, that some of these efficiencies and data tracking was enabling y'all to beef up those cost history efforts and historical
Yep.
cost. Could you dive a little bit more into that, like as far as how you see that helping Lifetime on future projects as you continue, building your pre-con efforts?
Well, I guess what it does is it lets you see what's behind the curtain. Oftentimes, what happens in an organization, I guess, is knowledge is siloed for better or for worse, whether it's intentional or unintentional, and say a handful of people. So by putting the cost down in our historical database and having those being tracked accurately, and to be clear, we were doing that well before. It's just that it's going to take less effort now. It just allows someone with maybe less years in service in a specific role to step in and have more accurate results. So
One of the last things I'd love to ask as we're wrapping up is, you've been through the process of having to, move over to a new estimating tool, in this case, Destiny Estimator. So what would you say to someone who is, starting to look for a new pre-con tool? What would your advice be?
um, I guess I would certainly consider the software put out by Beck Tech. Understand that I think anytime you try to implement a new program, it's going to take you longer than you think. So, budget a little bit more time than what you initially think it's going to take. And that's with any project, right? It takes you twice as long as you think, because what happens is it triggers some additional questions on process, and you think you're just implementing a new estimating software system, but it's going to trigger you to think about, or the organization to think about rather, how other things are being addressed or handled. And you will have to have an interface, if you want to track historical costs with your accounting department, and I'm sure that a lot of firms out there already have that. But it just may, there may be more collaboration than with other groups or other interested parties or stakeholders within the organization than just the pre-con team or just the construction team. So but I think once you get down that road, everyone is going to be pleasantly surprised with the results. So um, you know it's all part of the journey, as I like to say, with our implementation manager at from Destiny, or from Beck Tech. But um, yeah, I would definitely take a look at Destiny Estimator.
Okay, awesome. I think the very, very last thing that I would love to ask you is, what are you most excited about to see in the future of pre-con technology? Like, what is one thing that maybe isn't possible today that you would love to see, I don't know, 3 years, 5 years down the road?
Oh goodness. Coming from someone that didn't take off in the paper realm, the 2D realm on paper. About 10 years ago, we really started kicking around the 3D world. I don't know what the next step is. I think that a continued refinement and shift within the industry to really leverage the 3D model. I think at some point we're going to have to start thinking about moving away from the 2D realm and solidly into the 3D realm, and even starting to build off those docs or those models. And I think that's going to take a little bit of a shift philosophically. Everyone's used to seeing a plan table, whether it's an electronic plan table or the old traditional 2D that we have out on site. I think that the shift to really manipulating the model for pre-con and construction activities is something that I'm looking forward to. But I think we're probably maybe about 5 years away from really seeing that adopted, at least in the field anyway, on a wide scale. So I think we're starting to flirt with it here, at least internally and in the region I'm in now. But it's um, I think there's still a lot of refinement there that we need to work through as an industry.